Chapter 1. The Passing Glance. The humidity in the air was thick, but the vibe on the porch was thicker. Jada sat on the steps with her girls, Keisha and Tasha, nursing a cold drink and laughing at some nonsense Keisha was spitting. That's when he rolled up. He wasn't just walking, he was gliding, shoulders broad, skin like polished mahogany reflecting the afternoon sun. As he crossed the line of her vision, he slowed down. His eyes locked onto Jada's, a slow, predatory grin spreading across his face. "You got a beautiful ass smile, Ma," he said, his voice a low rumble that vibrated in Jada's chest. He didn't linger. He didn't ask for a number. He just kept walking, leaving a trail of high-end cologne and pure confidence in his wake. "Goddamn," Keisha whispered, fanning herself. "That nigga smells like wealth and bad decisions. I know a problem when I see one, and Jada, he's a whole ass math equation." Jada felt the heat rising in her neck. She tried to play it off, taking a sip of her drink, but her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "He's all right," she lied. "All right, bitch, please," Tasha chimed in. "He looked at you like you were the last meal on earth. If you don't chase that down, I will." Jada just watched his back as he turned the corner. She didn't know his name, but she felt the spark. It wasn't a flicker, it was the beginning of a wildfire. Chapter 2. The Ghost and the Mall. Days turned into a week, and the mahogany stranger was nowhere to be found. Jada found herself checking the street every time she stepped out, feeling like a pressed-out fangirl. "I haven't seen your little crush lately," Keisha teased while they were browsing the racks at the mall. "Maybe he went back to whatever heaven or hell he dropped out of." "Shut the fuck up, Keisha," Jada blushed, pretending to be deeply interested in a silk blouse. "I'm not thinking about that man." "Liar, your eyes are scanning this mall like a bounty hunter." They turned the corner toward Ameliorate 3X, a high-end boutique. Tasha grabbed Jada's arm so hard her nails dug in. "Yo, look, by the window." Jada's heart dropped into her stomach. There he was. But the problem Keisha had joked about was suddenly very real. He wasn't alone. A woman with sharp features and long braids stood next to him, laughing. 4 kids, all with his nose and his eyes, were swarming around them. He looked like the poster child for black excellence and family values. He looked happy. No, he looked settled. Jada felt a sharp, ugly sting of rejection. He was a whole-ass father and a husband, or at least a committed man. "Damn," Tasha muttered, her voice dropping the humor. "The good ones are always taken, and the fine ones always got a whole basketball team." Jada turned away, the silk blouse suddenly feeling like sandpaper in her hands. "Let's go. I'm done shopping." Chapter 3. The Coffee Shop Trap. 3 days later, Jada was at her local coffee spot, trying to drown her annoyance in a latte. The door chimed, and a shadow fell over her table. She looked up, and there he was. No kids, no woman, just him and that devastating grin. "I'm seeing you everywhere," he said, pulling out the chair across from her without asking. Jada didn't smile back. "You don't see me everywhere. You didn't see me at the mall the other day. I saw you with your family. You looked real happy." He didn't flinch. He leaned in, his eyes dark and intense. "I am happy. Don't get me wrong. We got some bad, we got some good, but I wouldn't trade her for the world." "She's been there. Then why the fuck are you sitting here?" Jada snapped. He laughed, a rich, arrogant sound. "Because eyes don't lie, and yours were screaming at me on that porch. Why can't we just exchange numbers? Keep it friendly. You got a whole life, man," Jada said, but her hand was already reaching for her phone. "And I got room for a friend," he countered. Jada slid her phone across the table. "Put it in. But don't bring no drama to my door. I'm a grown man, Jada. I handle my shit," he said, his thumb brushing hers as he handed the phone back. Chapter 4. The Discovery. The texting started that night. It was constant. Late night, "I'm thinking about you," messages and mid-afternoon check-ins. But Jada noticed the patterns. He only called between 5:30 and 6 p.m., his commute time, or late at night when the house was quiet. She knew she was the other, but the dopamine hit of his attention was a drug. A week later, Jada was out with her cousin, Maya. I gotta stop by my homegirl's house real quick, Maya said, swinging the car into a quiet suburban street. I think you might know her, actually. They pulled up to a neat brick house. Maya hopped out. Stay here, I'll be 2 minutes. Jada sat in the passenger seat, the radio blasting Mariah Carey's We Belong Together. She was lost in the lyrics, thinking about him, when the front door of the house opened. Her heart stopped. The man from the mall, her man from the phone, stepped onto the porch. He was in his undershirt, looking comfortable, looking home. What the fuck? Jada whispered to the dashboard. Maya was talking to him, laughing. Jada felt a wave of nausea. She rolled the window down halfway, her eyes locking onto his. The color drained from his face. The confusion in his eyes turned into pure, unadulterated panic. Maya turned back to the car, oblivious. Yo, Jada, come here. This is my girl's man. Wait, he says he knows you? Jada rolled the window back up, cranked the Mariah Carey until the speakers rattled, and stared straight ahead. She wasn't just a friend. She was a secret being kept in the house of her cousin's best friend. Chapter 5. The Girlfriend's Suspicions. Meanwhile, back at the house that Jada now knew belonged to Maya's homegirl, his girlfriend, things were tense. Keisha, the girlfriend, had been feeling it for weeks. Small shifts in his routine, almost imperceptible at first, but adding up to a mountain of doubt. He was coming home later, not by much, but enough that she noticed. His phone, once left carelessly on the kitchen counter, was now glued to his hip, face down. The casual affection had waned, replaced by a distracted distance. He stopped sharing his location, claiming his phone was tripping. Keisha wasn't stupid. She'd been through too much with this man to ignore the red flags waving in her face. 7 years, including the ones she'd spent behind bars for a crime he committed, had hardened her. She knew the rhythm of his lies, the telltale signs of his wandering eye. One night, the dam broke. He walked in, trying to sneak past her, but she was waiting. Where the fuck have you been? Her voice was low, dangerous. He sighed, running a hand over his face. Out. Working. You always gotta start some shit, Keisha. Don't you dare tell me I'm starting shit, nigga. She roared, her voice escalating. My intuition ain't never wrong. My pussy ain't dry, so why you acting like you ain't got a home? Who the fuck you texting and calling at all hours? Don't think I ain't seen your shit. Your little late night meetings, your phone glued to your hand. Do I look like a dumb bitch to you, sitting here being faithful while you out here running the streets like a dog in heat? He exploded back, the argument turning into a hurricane of profanity, accusations, and bitter recriminations. The kids, thankfully, were asleep. She knew he was lying. She knew it in her bones. And he knew she knew. The air crackled with unspoken truths and undeniable betrayals. Chapter 6. The Confession and the Escape. The shouting match with Keisha ended the way it always did, with him slamming the door and storming out. But this time, something was different. The fight felt final, not just another cyclical explosion. He got in his car, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. The rage simmered, but beneath it, a desperate need for solace gnawed at him. He knew exactly who he was going to call. His fingers flew across the screen, dialing Jada. Hello? Her voice was soft, a stark contrast to the venomous words still ringing in his ears. Jada, he exhaled, the tension visibly draining from him. I can't do this shit no more. I'm ready to leave her. A pause on the other end. Really? She asked, her voice laced with a tremor of hope she tried to hide. Yeah, can I come over? I need to talk to someone. I need to get out of this hell. Jada hesitated, the image of him at the mall with his family, then at his home with Maya, flashing through her mind. But the thought of him, broken and needing her, was a powerful intoxicant. Yeah, she finally said, trying to sound casual. But don't bring no negative energy into my doorway, though. I'm not that kind of party. She ended it with a nervous laugh. As soon as they hung up, Jada flew upstairs. The rage and betrayal she felt at seeing him at Maya's homegirl's house was overshadowed by a thrill she couldn't deny. She showered, scrubbed away the day's grime, and slipped into her softest night clothes. She wanted to look effortlessly alluring, the calm port in his storm. Chapter 7. The Half-Truths. When he arrived, Jada opened the door, a manufactured serene smile on her face. He stepped in, bringing with him the scent of expensive cologne and the heavy air of conflict. He looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot, but there was an intensity in his gaze that pulled her in. He sank onto her couch, running his hands through his short, meticulously kept dreads. "Man, I can't," he began, his voice raspy. He poured out his heart, or at least, a carefully curated version of it. He talked about his dreams, his ambitions, the future he envisioned, a future that felt stifled, held back. He painted Keisha as the obstacle, the dead weight, the person standing between him and his destiny. He spoke of her controlling nature, her constant accusations, the way she made him feel suffocated. He told Jada all the bad, all the grievances, every frustration he'd harbored. But he conveniently omitted the part about Keisha doing 7 years for him, taking the fall for a drug charge that would have put him away for far longer. He didn't mention the sacrifice, the loyalty, the good years. He crafted a narrative where he was the victim, and Keisha, the antagonist. Jada listened, her heart aching for him, her ego soaring with the knowledge that she was the one he sought out. She offered soft murmurs of understanding, her hand occasionally brushing his arm, a silent offer of comfort. Chapter 8. The Lingering Night. As the hours slipped by, the conversation turned from his woes to their burgeoning connection. He spoke of how easy it was to talk to her, how she understood him in a way no one else ever had. The air in Jada's apartment thickened with unspoken desires. "It's getting late," Jada finally said, her voice a little shaky. She knew what she was supposed to say. "Go home. Fix it." He leaned in, his eyes intense, searching hers. "It feels so right here, Jada. In your arms." His hand reached for hers, his thumb tracing the lines on her palm. Jada felt a blush creep up her neck. Her logical mind screamed at her, reminded her of the children, of Keisha's sacrifice, of the fucking problem Keisha had warned her about. But her body, her heart, her yearning for this man, overruled it all. She leaned into his touch, her gaze meeting his, a silent invitation passing between them. He didn't go home. They spent the night in the warm embrace of her apartment, a silent pact forged in the glow of the city lights filtering through her window. A secret, a betrayal, and the intoxicating promise of a new beginning. But back at his house, Keisha was staring at a cold, empty bed, the silence screaming louder than any argument. She felt the shift in him, the growing distance, and a primal fear began to set in. She knew, deep down, that he was gone, and she knew exactly where his heart had strayed. Chapter 9. The Reckless High. The weeks that followed were a blur of adrenaline and high-stakes sneaking. Every time Jada's phone buzzed, her heart did a somersault. He was officially moved out, or so he claimed, staying at a friend's place, while he got his life together. In reality, he was living in the spaces between Jada's sheets and Keisha's desperate phone calls. He took Jada to dinners in neighborhoods where nobody knew them, his hand constantly on her thigh under the table. He talked about the future like it was a gold-plated promise. "I'm gonna get us that house in the hills, Jada. Just watch. No more drama, no more faking." But the faking was constant. He'd still go, see the kids, and end up staying for hours, leaving Jada staring at her phone, feeling like a side character in her own life. When he did come back, he'd make up for it with intensity, whispering sweet, filthy things in her ear until she forgot why she was mad. The sex was a wildfire, consuming all her common sense. Chapter 10. The Evidence. One afternoon, Jada was getting ready for a night out with her girls. Her phone chimed with a notification that made her breath hitch. It was a photo from him. She opened it, and her jaw dropped. It was a raw, explicit shot of him in his bathroom, his ego on full display, his muscles tensed. Underneath, the caption read, "I know you want this. I'm thinking about how it felt last night. Can't wait to get back to you." Jada bit her lip, a flush creeping over her entire body. She was hooked, and he knew it. She typed back a quick response, shaking my head. You know I do. See you later. She felt a sense of power, a sense of winning. She had the man everyone wanted, the man who was supposedly settled. She felt like she was the only one who truly knew him, the only one who could handle his fire. She didn't see the trap closing around her, she only saw the heat. Chapter 11. The Girls' Night Out. The bar was packed, the bass from the speakers thumping through the floorboards. Jada was 3 drinks in, feeling loose and reckless. Her cousin Maya was there, along with Keisha and Tasha. They were laughing, talking shit, and passing around phones to show off the latest drama. Let me see what your new man looks like, Jada, Tasha yelled over the music. You been acting all mysterious lately. Jada, emboldened by the Hennessy, pulled up her gallery. She didn't mean to show the explicit one, but as she flicked through, the picture he'd sent earlier popped up in full detail. Ooh, damn, Tasha laughed. He is definitely gifted. But Maya's face went stone cold. She grabbed Jada's wrist, pulling the phone closer to her eyes. Her expression shifted from curiosity to pure, unadulterated disgust. Wait a damn minute, Maya whispered, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Give me that phone. Chapter 12. The Collision of Worlds. Maya pulled Jada to a quiet corner near the restrooms, her eyes flashing with a mix of pity and rage. Jada, tell me you're fucking joking. Is this the nigga you've been seeing? Yeah, that's him. Why you tripping, Maya? Jada snatched her phone back. Maya didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out her own phone, scrolled through her contacts, and tapped a name. She held the screen up to Jada's face. It was the same number. But in Maya's phone, the contact name wasn't a heart emoji. It was Damon, Keisha's man. I know this nigga, Jada. I've known him for 19 years, Maya hissed. That's my best friend Keisha's man. The woman whose house we went to? The one who did 7 motherfucking years in prison so he wouldn't have to? That's his kid's mother. That's her life you're playing with. Jada felt like she'd been doused in ice water. The room started spinning. He said they were over, Maya. He said she was holding him back. Holding him back? Maya laughed bitterly. Bitch, she saved him. He's a manipulator, Jada. He's using you because you're fresh and you don't know his history of being a piece of shit. He's been abusive, he's been a liar, and now he's got you looking like a fool. You're family, but if you keep fucking with him, you're dead to me and everybody else who knows the truth. Jada closed her eyes, taking a deep, shaky breath. The wildfire was starting to burn her, and for the first time, she realized she didn't have any water to put it out. Chapter 13. The Cold Confrontation. Jada didn't wait for the morning. The Hennessy in her system had turned from a warm buzz into a sharp, jagged edge of courage. She drove straight to the temporary apartment Damon was staying at, a spot she now realized was probably paid for with money Keisha had helped him stack. She pounded on the door until he opened it, looking sleepy and fine in nothing but his boxers. Jada? Baby, what's the matter? It's 2 in the morning. You a bitch, Damon, she spat, pushing past him into the room. 19 years? 7 years in the feds for you? You didn't think that was important enough to mention while you were lying in my bed talking about your future. Damon's face went from sleepy to cold in a heartbeat. The mask slipped. Who the fuck you been talking to? Maya? I told you her and her friends stay in some drama. Drama? Nigga, that's your life. You told me she was a weight around your neck, not the woman who took a charge so you could stay out here and play king. You're a fucking coward. Damon stepped toward her, his stature intimidating, but Jada didn't flinch. I did what I had to do to survive, Jada. You don't know the streets. You don't know what we went through. Yeah, she did time, but I took care of her the whole way. I don't owe her my soul forever. Chapter 14. The Family Divide. The fallout was instant and ugly. Maya wasn't lying when she said Jada was playing with fire. By the next afternoon, the family group chat was a war zone. Jada's mother was calling her, screaming about how she wasn't raised to be a home wrecker, and her male cousins were sending threatening texts to Damon. But Damon was a master manipulator. He didn't run, he leaned in. He started showing up at Jada's job with flowers, apologizing, crying, telling her that he stayed with Keisha out of obligation, but he loved Jada out of choice. "I'm choosing you, Jada," he whispered against her neck in the parking lot. "I'm ending it with her for real. No more back and forth. Just give me a chance to show you I can be the man you deserve." Jada knew she should walk away. She saw the wreckage he left behind. But the way he looked at her, like she was the only thing that mattered in a world of chaos, kept her anchored to his side. She blocked Maya. She stopped answering her mother. She chose the wildfire. Chapter 15. Keisha's quiet rage. Back at the brick house, Keisha wasn't crying anymore. She had heard through the grapevine, through Maya, exactly who Damon was seeing. When she found out it was Maya's own cousin, a girl she had invited into her home, something inside Keisha finally snapped. She didn't throw his clothes out this time. She didn't scream. She sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine and a notebook, documenting every cent she had put into his businesses, every debt he owed her, and every piece of dirt she had on him from the last 2 decades. "You think you're going to just walk into a sunset with a new bitch?" Keisha whispered to the empty room. "After I gave you my youth? After I gave you my freedom? You got me fucked up, Damon." She called an old contact from her days before the feds. "Yeah, it's Keisha. I need a favor. I need to know everywhere they go. I want to see the happy couple in action." Chapter 16. The public debut. A few months later, the breakup was official. Damon and Keisha had separated, and he moved into a new place with Jada. They started going out in public, no longer hiding in the shadows of dive bars. They went to brunch, to the movies, and finally, to a large community event at the park where all the local black families gathered. Jada was glowing. She felt like she had won. They were dressed in matching linen outfits, looking every bit like the power couple Damon promised they would be. But as they walked toward the food tents, the air shifted. Standing by the grill was a group of people Jada recognized all too well. Maya was there, along with her male cousin, Terrence. And standing right next to them, looking sleek and untouchable in a sundress, was Keisha. The silence that fell over the group was deafening. Damon's grip on Jada's hand tightened until it hurt. Terrence stepped forward, his eyes burning a hole through Damon. "You got a lot of nerve bringing her here, man." "It's a public park, Terrence," Damon said, his voice dropping an octave. "Move out the way." Keisha didn't say a word. She just looked at Jada, not with anger, but with a terrifying kind of pity. She reached into her bag, pulled out a small, sealed envelope, and handed it toward Jada. "I'm not here for the bullshit," Keisha said calmly. "Just read this when you're alone. Consider it a wedding gift, since I hear y'all are heading that way." Chapter 17. The unopened warning. The envelope felt like it weighed 100 pounds in Jada's clutch bag. She could feel Keisha's eyes on her back as she and Damon walked away toward the far end of the park. Damon was vibrating with a silent, jagged energy. His jaw was set so tight Jada thought his teeth might crack. "What the fuck was that?" he hissed once they were out of earshot. "Why the fuck did you take anything from her?" "It's just a note, Damon." "Relax," Jada said, though her heart was hammering. She wasn't even yelling. She actually seemed calm. "That's because she's a manipulative bitch, Jada. She's trying to get in your head. She wants to poison what we have because she's bitter she lost." He grabbed Jada's arm, pulling her closer. "If I catch you reading that shit, we're gonna have a real problem." "Toss it." Jada looked at him, surprised by the sudden flash of aggression in his eyes. This wasn't the calm port she had fallen for. This was the man Keisha had lived with for 19 years. Jada didn't toss it, but she didn't open it either. She tucked it deep into the zippered lining of her bag, burying the truth under a layer of lipstick and receipts. Chapter 18. The Ring and the Rush. 2 weeks later, Damon dropped to one knee in the middle of a crowded rooftop lounge. The ring was massive, too big, honestly, for a man who claimed he was starting over with nothing. The crowd cheered, and for a moment, the glitter of the diamond blinded Jada to everything else. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." The wedding planning became an obsession. Jada threw herself into fabrics, flowers, and guest lists, using the busyness to drown out the fact that her mother still wasn't speaking to her and Maya had blocked her on everything. She was building a kingdom on a foundation of sand, but as long as the sun was shining, she refused to look down. Damon, however, was becoming increasingly erratic. He was paying for everything in cash, his temper flaring whenever Jada asked where it was coming from. "Don't worry about the money, Jada. Just pick the damn flowers and stay out of my business," he'd barked one night, slamming a kitchen chair so hard the wood splintered. Chapter 19. The mask slips. The first time he put his hands on her, it wasn't a hit. It was a shove, hard enough to send her stumbling into the hallway wall. They had been arguing about her phone. He wanted her passwords, claiming that if they were getting married, there should be no secrets, despite the fact that his own phone was now double encrypted. "You're acting just like her," he yelled, his face inches from hers, his breath smelling of bourbon and rage. "Always questioning me, always looking for a reason to doubt. I left my whole life for you, Jada. I gave up my kids for you. You better start showing some motherfucking respect." Jada stared at him, her shoulder throbbing where it hit the dry wall. The wildfire was no longer warm, it was scorching her. But then, as quickly as the rage appeared, it vanished. He fell to his knees, wrapping his arms around her waist, sobbing into her stomach. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm just stressed. The transition is hard. I love you so much it hurts. Please don't leave me." And Jada, trapped in the cycle she thought she was too smart to fall for, stroked his hair and told him it was okay. She still hadn't opened the letter. Chapter 20. The Silent Witness. The wedding day arrived, a blur of white lace and expensive champagne. Jada looked like a queen, but she felt like a ghost. As she stood in the bridal suite, she saw her clutch bag sitting on the vanity. The same bag from the park months ago. She reached into the lining and pulled out Keisha's note. Her fingers trembled. She started to tear the seal, but a knock at the door stopped her. It was Terrence, her male cousin. He was the only one from the family who showed up, mostly out of a sense of duty to watch over her. "You ready, Jay?" he asked, his voice heavy with a sadness that didn't match the occasion. "Yeah," she said, quickly shoving the note back into the bag. "I'm ready. Keisha told me to tell you one thing," Terrence said, leaning against the doorframe. "She said she's not mad anymore. She's just waiting. She knows how the movie ends, Jada. She saw it for 19 years. Jada ignored him, straightened her veil, and walked down the aisle toward the man who had promised her the world, unaware that the letter in her bag contained the police reports, the medical records, and the dates of every time he had broken Keisha down. She walked into her good ending with her eyes wide shut. Chapter 21. The Golden Cage. The first 6 months of marriage felt like a high-speed chase. Damon was everywhere, buying Jada jewelry, taking her on weekend trips to Tulum, and posting king and queen photos that made the world think they were living the dream. But inside their new house, the walls were getting thinner. The cash Damon spent so freely started to dry up. The consulting jobs he claimed to have were revealed as nothing more than risky street gambles that were souring fast. When the money got tight, Damon's hand got heavy. It started with more shoves, then a reflex slap during a heated argument about the mortgage. "Don't look at me like that, Jada," he'd roar, his eyes bloodshot. "I'm out here bleeding for this family while you sit here looking pretty. You think Keisha ever looked at me with that judgmental ass face?" She knew how to support a man. Jada spent her nights icing her face and her days wearing heavy concealer. She was isolated. She had traded her family and her peace for a man who was slowly turning her into a shadow. Chapter 22. The Unexpected Alley. Jada was at a grocery store far from her neighborhood, trying to hide her bruised wrist under a long sleeve, when she saw her. "Keisha." Jada froze, expecting a taunt or a laugh. But Keisha just walked up to her, looked at the way Jada was holding her arm, and sighed. There was no malice in her eyes, only a weary, sisterly recognition. "He's hitting the resentment phase, isn't he?" Keisha asked quietly. Jada's throat tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Jada, stop it. I did 19 years of this. I did 7 years in a cell so he could keep his image clean. I know exactly what he does when he feels small. He tries to make you smaller. Keisha reached out, her touch surprisingly gentle. I heard he's losing money. That's when he's most dangerous. If you need a place to go, Maya has my number. I'm out of that life, but I won't watch a sister drown in the same water I escaped. Chapter 23. The Truth Unveiled. That night, Damon didn't come home. He texted her that he was handling business, which Jada knew meant he was at a strip club or a gambling den. With the house silent, Jada went to the back of her closet and pulled out the old clutch bag. She reached into the lining and finally, with shaking fingers, tore open Keisha's letter. It wasn't a mean-spirited note. It was a roadmap. He starts with the jewelry to buy your silence, it read. Then he cuts you off from your mama and your cousins so he's the only voice you hear. Then comes the accidents. Check the folder behind this note. Behind the letter were photocopies. Hospital records from 5 years ago, Keisha with a broken rib. A police report Keisha had filed and then withdrawn out of love. And finally, a bank statement showing that Damon had emptied the kids' college funds 2 weeks before he married Jada. The last line of the letter read, I didn't lose him to you, Jada. I gave him to you so I could finally breathe. I hope you find your breath before he takes it. Chapter 24. The Wildfire Reverses. Jada sat on the floor, the papers scattered around her like autumn leaves. The Everglow she thought she found was just the glow of her own life being burned for his warmth. Suddenly, the front door slammed. Damon was home, and he was stumbling. Jada, where the fuck are you? Why ain't the porch light on? He burst into the bedroom, his eyes landing on the papers in her lap. The air in the room turned frigid. What the fuck is that? Is that the bitch's letter? Jada looked up at him. For the first time, she didn't feel fear. She felt a cold, hard clarity. She did 7 years for you, Damon. And you stole from your own kids to buy my ring. Damon's face contorted into something demonic. He lunged for her, his fist balled. I told you not to read that shit. But Jada had already moved. She grabbed the heavy glass lamp from the nightstand and swung with everything she had, catching him square in the temple. He slumped to the floor, stunned. She didn't wait. She grabbed her keys, the letter, and her phone. As she ran out the door, she saw his phone buzzing on the table. A text from an unknown number. The feds are at the warehouse. Move. Jada didn't look back. She drove straight to Maya's house, the wildfire finally burning behind her instead of in front of her. Chapter 25. The walls close in. The night Jada arrived at Maya's doorstep, she didn't look like the glowing bride from the wedding photos. She was bruised, shaking, and clutching a manila envelope like it was a life raft. Maya didn't ask questions. She threw the door open, pulled Jada into the hallway, and held her while her cousin sobbed out months of suppressed terror. I've got you, Maya whispered. The fire is out, Jada. You're safe. While Jada slept a fitful, drug-free sleep for the first time in a year, the streets were moving. The text Jada had seen on Damon's phone wasn't a fluke. The feds had been building a RICO case against his consulting firm for months. They didn't just want the drugs, they wanted the money trail. And because Damon was arrogant, he had left a trail of digital breadcrumbs a mile wide. By 4 a.m., the brick house Jada had once shared with him was surrounded. Damon, coming out of his daze from the lamp strike, tried to flush what was left of his stash, but it was too late. They took him out in zip ties, barefoot and screaming about his rights, while the neighbors watched from behind their curtains. Chapter 26. The Reckoning. 3 months later, the courtroom was silent. Jada sat on one side of the aisle, flanked by Maya, Terrence, and her mother, who had finally forgiven her after a long, tearful Sunday dinner. On the other side sat Keisha, looking regal in a navy suit, her 4 children tucked neatly beside her. Damon looked smaller in his orange jumpsuit. The king was gone, replaced by a man facing 25 to life without the possibility of parole. When it was Jada's turn to speak, she didn't look at the judge. She looked directly at Damon. You told me I was the only one who understood you, Jada said, her voice steady and clear. But the truth is, you didn't even understand yourself. You thought women were things to be consumed and discarded. You thought loyalty was a one-way street. I'm not here to ask for a light sentence. I'm here to tell you that you no longer have a place in my story. As she walked back to her seat, her eyes met Keisha's. There was a nod, a silent, sacred acknowledgement between two women who had survived the same monster. The hard profanity of their past was being replaced by a quiet, powerful grace. Chapter 27. Everglow. A year passed. The wildfire had burned everything down, but the soil it left behind was rich. Jada had returned to her passion for hair, opening a small boutique salon with Maya as her business manager. She called it Everglow, but this time, the name wasn't about a man. It was about the light she had found within herself. On a warm Saturday afternoon, the bell at the shop chimed. Keisha walked in, followed by her oldest daughter. I heard you're the best in the city for silk presses, Keisha said with a playful wink. For you? Always, Jada smiled, gesturing to the chair. As Jada worked on Keisha's hair, they talked. Not about Damon. His name was a ghost they had long since exorcised, but about the future. They talked about the kids, about business, and about the peace that comes when you stop chasing a flame and start building a home. The story of Everglow Wildfire didn't end in a tragedy or a funeral. It ended in a salon filled with black girl magic, laughter, and the scent of expensive oils. Jada looked at her reflection in the mirror. No concealer, no bruises, just a woman who had walked through the fire and come out as gold. She was finally happy, and for the first time in her life, she didn't need a man to tell her why. I'm not rushing it, I'll find love. It's not over.